Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the Managing Director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. Although we're based here in Bangkok, one of the things, or I should say, some of the cases that we take with respect to U.S. immigration are going to involve consular processing at the various U.S. posts in this region. So with this specific video, we're going to be talking about cases involving Laos. Actually, it's not uncommon to see Lao nationals actually process cases through the U.S. Embassy here in Bangkok rather than the U.S. Embassy up in Vientiane, Laos, the capital of Laos. It's actually not really all that uncommon at all. However, the Lao national in question must meet the residence requirements with respect to attachment of consular jurisdiction by the embassy here in Bangkok. So basically what we're talking about here is you can't just be sitting down in Thailand on a temporary visa in order to use the consulate in Bangkok rather than using the one in Vientiane, Laos. And I think that the thinking there is they have a caseload, they have a backlog at many of these posts throughout the world, and for that reason they want people who are genuinely living in the country in which the post is situated to be taking first preference with respect to their time and resources for processing visa applications. But that being said, those individuals who do have long-term visa status, perhaps married to someone living in Thailand, or have a work permit or long-term status, permanent residence, etc., in their own right here in the kingdom, may be able to get consular jurisdiction at the U.S. Embassy in Bangkok rather than going up to Laos. However, it's usually not a big issue involving my Lao national clients to go back to Vientiane, even if they do live down here in Bangkok, at least part-time. Just because most of them seem to have family and friends up there, and it's not a big deal. But moving on, how does this process work? Well, basically it's a three-pronged approach. You have to deal with Department of Homeland Security's United States Citizenship and Immigration Service, submit an initial petition with respect to the case, and seek approval from them. Once approval from Department of Homeland Security is obtained, the case will be sent over to the National Visa Center. The National Visa Center will then undertake basically document gathering and due diligence processing of the underlying case. They're going to go ahead and they don't exactly adjudicate, but they sort of pre-review the case so as to forward it on to the consulate in the country concerned in order to, I think it's really an effort to facilitate faster processing by the underlying, or I should say by the final adjudicator, which is going to be a consular officer at an immigrant visa unit abroad, in this case, Vientiane, Laos. Again, you have to keep in mind, and this is becoming increasingly true under this administration, there are only so many resources, and those resources are limited with respect to how much time an officer has with respect to adjudicating such cases. And for that reason, I think National Visa Center in these cases basically, again, sort of pre-reviews everything, makes sure everything is sort of generally in order, and then moves everything over to the consular officer. That being said, receiving an interview date from the National Visa Center does not in and of itself mean that the case is going to be approved upon interview at the U.S. Embassy abroad, specifically Laos. In fact, depending on the circumstances of the case, if there's an underlying ground of inadmissibility involved in the case, and we have another video which specifically discusses legal grounds of inadmissibility in the I-601 waiver, then the case could be denied. In the perfect world, the case is going to be approved and you're going to see the visa issued shortly thereafter. In other cases, the consular officer, in their discretion or in their adjudication capacity or adjudicator capacity, basically says, look, I want to see something else. I want to see another document. I want to see further evidence of XYZ, whatever that is, and we're going to go ahead and need to see that. They can then issue what's called a 221G, request for further documentation. Once that 221G is issued, there's a year to respond to that 221G, and once a response is made, so long as the documentation requested is submitted and the request and the adjudication by the consular officer is fulfilled, presumably an approval will happen shortly thereafter. Once the visa application is approved, the passport and visa will be sent back to the Lao national, and thereafter they will be able to travel to the United States.